Factorization of cubic polynomial. Now, this video will be talking about how to factorize cubic polynomial. So let us dissect this. The first thing that you need to understand is the concept of cubic polynomial. Now, a cubic polynomial is a function where the highest power of x is 3. We normally use factor theorem to help us factorize a cubic polynomial. The concept of factor theorem is finding a value that when you substitute into our function, it gives us 0. That value can be written like this, and we'll represent this as the factor of the original equation. There are different ways to factorize cubic polynomial. We're going to talk about 3 of them. So to factorize a question like this using factor theorem, the first thing we need to do is to get the factor. We are trying to find what value of x would give you 0. When you substitute into this equation, you get 0 at the end. How to do this is to find the factor of 12, the last value you have over here. The factors of 12 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. You're going to substitute each and every one of this into this equation. Not only do you substitute the positive value, you would also substitute the negative value into it. So I'm going to substitute plus and minus 1. I'm going to substitute plus and minus 2, and so on and so forth until you get here, which is plus or minus 12. Now, you don't need to substitute everything. You need to keep substituting until you get to the first one that gives you a 0. And that's what we're going to take as our factor. Now, if I substitute negative 1 into this, it gives me 14. So therefore, that is not a factor. However, if I substitute positive 1, it gives me 0. So that is a factor. X is equals to 1. So our first factor is x minus 1. Now, if positive 1 didn't give me 0, I could continue by substituting negative 2, positive 2, then go to negative 3, positive 3, and so on and so forth. Whenever you factorize a cubic function, you normally get a linear function and a quadratic function. We just found the linear part of our cubic function, which is the x minus 1. Now we need to figure out what the quadratic part is. And how we do that is through long division. Take the first value we have here, which is x cubed, and divide it by the first value we have in our factor, which is x. And when you divide those two, you would get x squared. Now, the next step is to multiply our x squared by our factor, meaning multiply x squared by x, which is x cubed, and also multiply x squared by negative 1, which is negative x squared. Then we would subtract. We would subtract the first two up here, which is x cubed minus 5x squared, by that one over there. Now the subtraction of this part will give you 0, while this one here would give you negative 4x squared. Then what follows it, we will bring down negative 8x. Then we'll repeat the process again. We're going to divide negative 4x squared by x, which will give you negative 4x. Then after that, you multiply. So that will give you. Then you subtract. This here will be 0. And this would be negative 12x. We have a 12 up here. We break that down one more time. It goes here. So therefore, we're going to have a plus 12 here. Then we do the exact same thing. We're going to take this negative 12x, and divide it by x, which will give you negative 12. So up here, we're going to write negative 12. Then we'll multiply negative 12 times that, would give you negative 12x. Then multiply negative 12 times negative 1 will give you positive 12. At the end of it, as you can see, our last values where we subtract this, that will be 0 and 0. So therefore, it means that x cubed minus 5x squared minus 8x plus 12 actually gives us x minus 1, x squared minus 4x minus 12. Now, since this is a trinomial, we can factorize using whichever method you want to. And this here would give you x minus 6 and x plus 2. With this, we factorize our cubic polynomial. X cubed minus 5x squared minus 8x plus 12 would give you x minus 1, x minus 6, x plus 2. And that's it. The concept of factor theorem is substituting a value for x that gives you 0. Now we notice that when you substitute x is equals to 1, you would get 0 for this equation. So it means that x minus 1 is a factor. Whenever you factorize a cubic polynomial, you always get a linear polynomial and a quadratic polynomial. The linear part we just found out to be x minus 1. But the quadratic polynomial, we do not know yet. So we still need to figure out what your A, what your B, what your C would be. By inspection, we can find out what our A is and what our C is. What I mean by that, x times 1x squared gives us x cubed over there. So if I multiply negative 1 times negative 12, I would definitely get positive 12. I do have my A and I also have my C. Now, the last thing we do not know and we need to try to figure out is Bx. How do we find that? So what we normally do to help you find the value for B, take this negative 5x squared, and we would also take the multiplication of negative 1 and x squared over there. We normally say the coefficient of the original x squared, which is negative 5, we say it is equals to the coefficient that you get when you multiply this negative 1 and this x squared, which in this case here, the coefficient you're going to get is negative 1. We say that when you add b to this negative 1, it's going to give you this negative 5. And that would be negative 4. Rewriting my equation again, it is x minus 1, x squared minus 4x minus 12. And that is exactly how you can find your value for b. Then from here, we could just factorize it normally. This is a quadratic polynomial using any type of factorization you know. This here would be negative 6, positive 2. So another way to factorize a cubic polynomial is by purely using your calculator. Now, it doesn't work for all questions, but it works for a lot. So that can help you get your answers a little bit easier. Now, you would go to the mode of your calculator. Now, I'm using a Casio calculator, so your calculator might be a little bit different. Look for where it says table. The table, it comes out on your calculator, you see something like this. You literally see fx equals to. Now, you just need to type out exactly what the equation is in your calculator. Now, after typing, you press the equals to button. Your calculator will ask you where do you want to start. Now, you will focus on what your last term is. Now, since this is 12, so we'll say we want to start from negative 12 and press equals to, and you want to end in 12. So you also type out 12, press equals to, then the step is just one. So it says start, negative 12, end, positive 12, step 1. Now, it's going to give you a lot of values. You have negative 12 being negative 2340, negative 11 being negative 1836. So what it actually does is that it takes each number from negative 12 to positive 12 and substitutes it into the equation for you. So you just need to scroll down and look for the values for x where the fx is equals to 0. Now, the first one I see here is negative 2 because at negative 2, fx is 0. I also see it as x is equals to 1, also the same thing, and the last one was x is equals to 6. I also see the same thing. Now, these are the three values that you can get. So basically, our factorization for this, if we want to put them into factors, is actually just going to be x plus 2, x minus 1, and x minus x, right? and that will be your answer.